So I'm gonna, through process by process, Farouk, I'm gonna challenge you on each process. So I've just listed down these processes here. A typical kind of audit cycle where we start with internal audit strategy, risk assessment, planning, fieldwork, reporting, and then follow up and issue management. Let's go one by one. So what I've done here, I've listed some of the pain points that I feel, and it's not just me. There are a lot of other audit functions, a lot of other chief audit executive that I've worked with. They're in the same boat. So I would want to hear some of the solutions from your side and how you take it. Firstly, starting with risk management. Internal audit function, we as auditors, we are very happy saying that yes, we are doing a risk-based audit, and it's a very kind of effective approach. But my problem with that is if we are basing our risk assessment based on the risk register, and I call them list registers, um, those risk registers which are not tied with the organization objectives and strategies, we see those risk registers are very siloed on a function level, and they don't talk to the organization business and strategy. And that's why we keep hearing from the audit committee and executives that the work that audit function is doing is not on our agenda, because there is a disconnect here. Because our underlying principle, the basic document that we're starting, that is not connected with how the decisions are made within the organization. And if this risk management function or this risk management approach is not embedded in the decision making, that's not going to take me anywhere as an auditor. And other piece, high moral, low risk rating is not enough in my opinion, Farouk, because what happens, firstly, this is a point in time approach. I'm doing sitting in April 2020, I doing my risk assessment, and this high, moderate, and low is a snapshot as of today. It's telling me this is high, moderate, and low as of now. What happens with these risks moving 6 months down the line? If I'm basing my audit plan on the risk on today and putting high, moderate, and low, how does it change moving forward 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line? Does it still stay high, moderate, and low? And second piece, what I see really missing here is that this risk rating is not linked with the risk appetite of the organization. If an organization, for example, not-for-profit organization or charity, if they've set their risk appetite at really, really low level, so even a moderate risk might not be acceptable for them. But if I apply my high, moderate, and low risk methodology in every scenario without having to have any consideration of the risk appetite of the organization, I'm missing the trick there. I may accept a risk, I may go ahead with a different approach of a moderate risk when it might not be acceptable, while another more aggressive organization, maybe a high risk might be acceptable. So this is another issue. And I keep saying this audit universe is a pretty much outdated concept where we have list of inventory of areas where we need to audit. We need to focus more on the risk universe, where we start with the business objectives and strategies and see what are the risks surrounding those, and then we start looking into these. So I feel these are the things which keep me stopping, which stops my internal audit function to be a trusted advisor. And how do we from that backward looking function take it to more forward looking, future focused function, Farouk and Ranjit? Would you please enlighten me as to how can technology take me forward on this?
Yeah, this is basically one of the most important areas of the entire process, because you have your internal audit strategy, and the first thing you do is always trying to understand what are the potential uncertainties you have and against your organizational objectives. So it is not just a risk assessment done, against a list of risk identified. So the first thing it connects to the organizational objectives. So when it comes to technology, the biggest promise technology can bring into internal audit as a practice is, we all understand that the risk assessment is done on a predefined intervals, and it is a static exercise for many of us, right? So what the technology can bring in is a completely proactive risk management system, which is more like real time and live. Right? So you're not doing a risk assessment where, let's say Ranjit will explain it later, where you say that, wherever you see an anomaly, you get to see you get notified about that specific thing. So if I have to specifically explain about some of the core features in internal audit, we all do risk assessments. While doing the risk assessment, what we look at is that you as you said, you look at your high, medium, low. We
Yeah.
don't want to stop there. When you say the high, medium, low, the system would be able to detect the potential impact and give you the potential impact in terms of your financial impact, in terms of your reputational impact, in terms of your regulatory impact. These are not listed in your menu, but basically the machine is recommending you this and saying that, okay, hey, you know what, these were the impacts in the past when you have deviated from these things. So that is typically your compliance issues, and these are your performance issues, because when you have these kind of an impact, when you had this kind of an impact in the past, this is how it is impacted in your business. So it is directly connecting to your business, and the risk assessment what you're carrying out is against the organizational goals. It is not within a department of an internal audit or within a function of an internal audit. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, what it does is that, we all have a beautiful business process portfolio. And when you look at a business process portfolio, that's governed by the controls, the internal controls. So looking at the current scenario, the best example I can give you is that, if you have got the access control, so instead of 10,000 people working from one office or 4 or 5 offices, what we have now is that, the access location or the place where the system is accessed or the technology is accessed is 10,000 access. Now, how do you really control what kind of anomalies can you detect, right? This is a very important thing. And similarly, when you look at the typical human resources control as an example, you will literally have to audit to find out what is going wrong, or you need to have certain predefined flags, to give you those flags coming in. But we are talking about a real-time detection of any anomalies here, and you get to see a proactive business controls, and based on what is really happening. So I would also ask Renjit to come up and say that the risk detection side of it. So how is it sounding to you, Imran? Like when you look at this kind of features coming in.
So I think this sounds quite interesting to me, Farouk. And as you're saying that we're moving from a static risk register to a more dynamic risk assessment, where the system is feeding in and it's updating my risk assessment throughout the year, and I've got those leading risk indicators built into the system, and they're linked with the business objectives. That sounds very interesting to me. Farouk.
Yeah, and moreover, when you look at your business process controls or your internal controls, it gives you a notification, and it can go with an escalation as well, as and when required. So you're not looking at those controls failing only when you do the audits. So you've got a real-time monitoring with all the required users getting their alerts and notifications as
Awesome.
and when required.
Let me go to Ranjit. Ranjit, would you want to bring in some technology perspective into this?
Yes, Imran. No? As Farooq explained, a real-time proactive risk monitoring is fairly possible using the technologies like machine learning, deep learning, and big data. These are recent technologies. So I would say, the entire process of risk detection to recommendation of actions can be automated, I would say. So when I see with some of the organizations that I worked, they generate a lot of data and store it, taking a lot of space, but they never utilize majority of the data what they store. So I have seen this with some manufacturing organizations. They deal with the IoT, Internet of Things data, the sensor data from their manufacturing plant. So what we can do is we can apply AI on top of this sensor data to predict, let's say, the risk of a machine to fail, before it happens, before the failure, maybe a few days or something, we can able to predict it. So that's a good example of how we can utilize the data and to predict the risks.
No,
Likewise, we can detect several other type of risks using the algorithms, the cyber threats, financial frauds, and many. So this is one of the there is one more advantage when we are using the AI-based risk detection model. It can not only predict the risk, but it can also recommend the actions to be taken. So that's a big advantage when we go with the AI-based risk prediction algorithms.
This is quite interesting. So it's not just your dynamic risk assessment, which is getting updated every now and then with every click of a risk. It's also coming up with the recommendation. It's